They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
A fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or?
From bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 5. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, double the 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above you do, doesn't it?
Unbiased, Miles Davis. Welcome to another edition of Unbiased with Miles Davis, where we go behind the scenes in lawn bowls and talk to the personalities and get the stories behind it. Today, I'm looking forward to this. Probably doesn't need an introduction, but I'd be rather rude if I didn't. Joe Edwards, bowling legend, joins me today. Joe, thank you so much for your time. Firstly, what's the weather like today in beautiful Nelson?
Absolutely stunning.
What a surprise.
Without a word of like, oh, look, it's a little bit breezy, but clear blue sky and a little bit of warmth there.
Now, people associate you with Nelson, and you're a through and through Kiwi legend. But I understand you had, should we say, more humble beginnings or different? You're actually born on Merseyside, and I saw it's a place called Clatterbridge, and I looked it up, and I see that it's on the poor side of the river as far as Merseyside goes.
Settle down.
Have you got any memories at all from it?
No. I was 15 months old when Mum and Dad decided to emigrate over to New Zealand with me and my 3-year-old brother. So absolutely no memories. Never been back there. It is on the bucket list. Obviously, Anfield's a big one for me, but just to see Liverpool and pretty much where it all started.
Now, did you get your love of Liverpool, the football team, and Anfield from your parents, from your dad or your mum?
Yeah. There was 3 of us that were Liverpool fans, and Mum was the blue side, but. It didn't cause it too many arguments over the family dinner table.
I can imagine that, because you 3 would have been smiling most of the time, except for maybe the mid-'80s, and Mum would have had a little moment of glory.
Moment of glory, dead right.
What was it that brought them over here?
Well, it was quite funny, really. My mum always wanted to live in New Zealand. She'd never been there. She never knew anyone that had been there. But she had a geography teacher at high school, and who must have done lessons on New Zealand, and she just, right from a young girl, she just wanted to live in New Zealand, and talked to my dad, and he was a chippy back there working in the shipyards, and one day he got home from work, he'd been on the train, and he read in the paper, and there was an advert for chippies over in New Zealand, and he kind of circled the paper, went home, threw it on the table, went up and had a shower, and Mum had a look at it and said, hang on, and they had a talk about it, and that was it. They just decided to take the leap and moved to Auckland first up. My dad was a semi-pro goalkeeper as well over in England, played for Tranmere, and so he got a gig up in Auckland playing football up there. So there was talk of them going to Perth, but no, I made the right decision in my eyes.
Yeah, well, in our eyes as well, Joe. So that's fascinating. so he's a goalkeeper now. When he was in Auckland, was the goalkeeper his secondary sort of thing? Was he still being a chippy, or did the goalkeeper take priority?
No, definitely not. No, the work was the priority, but he played obviously in the weekends, but he had a good mate that he knew back in England, Pat Toney. He was a Scottish guy, and they played against each other up in Auckland in the National League, and one day they were playing against each other, and Pat said, I'm pleased I caught up with you, I'm moving, and he said, oh that's a shame, just kind of getting on good terms and that, and he said, where are you going to? He said, this little town top of the South Island, Nelson. He got a contract down to play for Nelson United, and Dad said, okay. And just on parting terms, Pat says they're looking for a goalkeeper, and Dad kind of said to Mum, what about Nelson? And further to Mum wanting to come to New Zealand, she always wanted to live in the South Island, and so things like that happen, and it's just the right place, right time. Moved to Nelson, and just a little funny story about that. I remember going over to the Victoria Piers, playing with a then very young Kirsten Griffin, as she was, and I stayed with a couple, Alf and Nina de Munich, or Munich, I'm sorry, the pronunciation, and we got talking one night over dinner, and he was telling me his story, and I was kind of telling him my story, and he said, yeah, I had an opportunity to go to Nelson. He was a goalkeeper in the National League too. And I said, oh, wow, okay. And he said, yeah, it was back in 1975. And I'm doing the maths, and I said, oh, okay. And he said, but, I had to turn it down because, we had a young family, and we'd settled in Wellington and all that. And it worked out that because he turned it down, that's how my father got the gig.
It's such a small world. Just quickly, who did Dad play for in Auckland?
Oh, Jesus. Pass.
Pass.
The
Okay.
name.
I know a lot of football people up here, I guarantee. What was his Christian name?
Keith Barrett.
All right, Keith Barrett. We're going to find that. Keith Barrett. I shall find out for you, and I'll flick you a message just so that you can get your family history complete and don't make them ashamed of you. Right. So there basically when you're sort of grown up, you're in Nelson. Where do you do your schooling?
I did my early days at Enniglin Primary School. And then my father got transferred to Christchurch for like 6 months. Well, it was supposed to be longer, but it ended up being 6 months. And I went to Burwood Primary School down there, and then headed back to Nelson, finished off at Central, Nelson Intermediate, and Nelson College for Girls.
Oh, sounds a good, solid education. What were you like as a student? Were you academically gifted, or your mind elsewhere?
Lunch was good. Lunch was good, and sport was good. Typing was good because you didn't have to do homework. Quite enjoyed horticulture. Not the I passed school cert and got sixth form cert, but family and was never going to go any further than sixth form.
No, that's fair enough. There's thousands and millions of people do the same things. So there's no thing. But you mentioned sport there, and by your history and having a look at it, sport obviously has played a massive part in your life. When you were at school, what were the sports that you really enjoyed and excelled at?
I loved cricket. I think cricket was my first love. Unfortunately, back then it was schoolboy cricket, and I was the only little tomboy running around with the boys. Did get to play for the Nelson senior women's cricket side. Got picked when I was 12, and that particular team that I was picked for, I pretty much met my best friend and my husband as a 12-year-old. And it's funny how things turn out now, and obviously Val Smith's been my best mate, 39 years.
I thought you were going to start fibbing about your age there for a minute, Joe. I wasn't going to challenge it, but at least you confessed in the end.
Never had a problem. But cricket I think was my first love. I would love to be playing cricket now, seeing all the opportunities that they're getting, but back then it just wasn't really an option, and I played a lot of indoor cricket probably after I left school, but during school softball, football obviously came along, and I went a reasonable distance in the footy. But look, I just love sport. I think I was quite good at it, which obviously makes you like it a little bit more. But yeah, it was my passion, and it really didn't matter what the sport was, to be fair.
When I was talking to Val, she mentioned to me that you guys both got into bowls sort of relatively late compared to the other sports, and it only came about because of a multi-sport competition. Can you give us your side of that?
Yeah, so it was about, I think it was 1989. I was 19, and Nelson City Council ran a sports all-rounder, which was like 17 sports in the month of May. You know, you had to be available Wednesday nights and all day Sundays, I think it was. And we just did everything from canoeing, tenpin bowling, athletics, swimming, pool darts, small ball rifle shooting, lawn bowls, and others. And I remember, you know, I was pretty cocky turning up to the lawn bowls place. It was like, oh, how hard can this be? And literally, I think the first bowl hit the back of the ditch before the bottom. The second bowl was similar, and I thought, oh, okay, there's something in this. And so we did it for the lawn bowl, for the sports all rounder, and then Val was working for the Nelson City Council, and they had a team in like a business house league where, you know, on a Tuesday night you rocked up, and quite honestly the bowls got in the way of having a few beers, to be fair, and did that for probably 2 years. And while we were doing that, we were both playing senior softball here in Nelson, and the numbers of the softball were kind of dwindling. And, you know, you were playing a double header every second weekend. And, you know, while I liked the sport, I didn't love it. And I think Val was a bit the same. And we were flatting together, and we kind of, why don't we give this bowls a go for a year, you know? And, you know, a number of people said, look, you won't last. The woman will drive you out. And so we borrowed everything for the first year and rocked up. That was 1992. And yeah, the rest is history, really.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's interesting you mentioned that you were warned about the women driving you out, because I understand that because you were successful very early on and you were winning titles at local level and at regional level, that there was accusations and gossip mongering going on around you that you two were on the dole because you must be, because you're so good.
Practice
you must be practicing
all day,
the
every
time.
day. Oh yeah.
So what do you remember about that? How did it feel?
Oh, look, it was funny. I remember the first, because we joined the Nelson Bowling Club, and Val and I were the only two juniors, which is 1 to 5 years effectively, and so we couldn't play in the junior peers because we had no one to play with. So we thought, oh well, we'll just play the senior peers. You know, that's open grade. You're playing against really experienced players, and we're like, oh, doesn't matter. You know, it's just a couple of games, and bugger me, we went through and won our club senior peers, which, you know, was pretty unheard of. And we're off to the champs, which was always played midweek, you know, obviously, because there weren't any workers, you know, playing the sport back then. And it was a 2 life system, and our goal was to win 2 games on the first day, so we got another day off work. And that was our goal. And I remember turning up. We won 2. I think we won 2. We lost 1 on the first day, and the next day, you know, we win a couple of games, and it's lunchtime, and we find ourselves in the final. And it's so we went to the pub for a beer. We were that bloody nervous. It was ridiculous, and we had to play a very, very top pair from United, which is the club Val and I moved to, and it was a 2 life system. They had 2 lives, we had 1, and we went and beat them twice. So we got a centre title in our first year, which, you know, down in Nelson especially, there were some very, very good players playing, not only now but back then. And I remember the crowd that turned up, because there was a lot of sporting people that, you know, Nelson's obviously not a big place, and you kind of, sports people know sports people, and there was a lot of people that came to watch these 2 young things play the game of lawn bowls. And I remember, like, we pretty much flipped a coin to see who would skip, because neither of us knew what the hell we were doing. And I think we had like a driving competition, and I managed to hit one, and so I went skip. And so after, you know, we'd cross over each end, and it's funny, like, everyone afterwards said, it was really good to see you guys discussing what shots you were playing when you crossed over. And we're like, oh, is that what you thought we were doing? And they said, oh, what do you mean? We said, well, we'd go there and we'd go shit, what do I do now? And the answer would always be, well, wait and see what they do. So we were just flying by the seat of our pants. We had no idea, eh? And we happened to get up and win it. So,
That is such
looking back, if Val had skipped and I had led, I wonder if we'd have both played 600 games for our country, you know?
That is amazing. That was a lovely story. Yeah, Val said that there was a lot of jealousy, but you've managed to drive through that. You talked about Val, and she was working for Nelson City Council. What did you do when you left school for a crust?
I worked at an indoor sports centre, which was temp and bowling, indoor cricket, indoor netball, and all that. That's pretty much what I did when I left.
And how long were you there for?
Oh, geez, 4 years, maybe. God, it's a long time ago.
How hard was it I suppose there was a lot of weekend, but how hard was it to get time away from there to play bowls?
Oh, it was pretty good. I had a really good boss, and that, so I'd work hours other times to allow me to have certain times off. But just going back to the women back in Nelson when we first started, for everyone that was kind of against Val and I, there would have been 5 and 6 that were for us. So it was, it wasn't across the board that we were getting grief. Obviously, the ones that were against you were a little bit more vocal, but I still in close contact with a lot of the ladies that we played against when we first started. So yeah, it's always one of those ones. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but lucky enough we had more with us than against us.
Yeah, I feel that if everyone likes you, you're doing something wrong. There's something not quite right right there. I think it was Churchill who said, "If you've got enemies, you've obviously stood for something."
Yes, exactly.
At one time or another. Okay, so you're getting really into bowls. Presumably, you're having to give up a lot of other sports because it takes so much time, and you're getting into it. Then when did you first get the sort of national selector's eye?
I made the New Zealand Academy team in 1997. So I was a junior. I was a 5th year bowler, 27 years old. And back in the day where the skirts were 16 inches off the ground, and hats and blazers were a must. And I remember going to South Tweed Heads for the annual Trans-Tasman tournament. So yeah, 1997.
What was it like playing in that sort of? To me, it looks restrictive. The clothing, was it restrictive? Did you feel uncomfortable in it?
Oh, you got no idea. Like
I have worn a skirt before, I don't know. You accuse me of that, but yeah, carry on.
Well, the stupid thing about it was like if the reason for having to do it is a good reason, then I'm okay with it. But do you know the reason that the skirts had to be 16 inches off the ground?
I dread to think, but you're going to tell me.
So that when you're in a photo, it all looked uniform. So it didn't matter whether you were 6 foot or 5 foot, your skirt was the same length.
Did you have umpires come along and measuring to make sure that you weren't trying to sort of shorten them?
Yeah. You had in a lot of the ladies' toilets, there's a dress mirror, and there would be a line on the mirror that you could measure your skirt against. Now, like, you just visualise, I'm pretty much 6 foot, Val's 5 foot, I don't know, I don't want to, 4 maybe?
4.5.
Yeah, 4.5. Now, her skirt was a nice, just on the knee. When my skirt was mid-calf. I'm a 22-year-old woman playing sport in a skirt that's bloody halfway down my legs. And I remember, like, our first official tournament, so we'd got our skirts and our, blouses and petticoats and friggin' stockings and like, obviously Val and I were flatting together, and we came out, she was in her bedroom, I'm in mine, we came out to the lounge and we just pissed ourselves, looking at each other, going, we're off to play sport, and Val said to me, do you need anything on the way to the bowling green? I said, oh, no, I don't think so. She said, good, because she said, we're going from here to the bowling club back to here. She said, no one else is seeing us like this. And that's what it was, But, I don't know when it was. I think we kind of introduced the knee-length shorts. And then it went from there, trousers, 3/4. Now it's the skorts. It's whatever you're comfortable in, which I think's really a turning point for the game.
Yeah, because it's going to be less of a distraction. You feel more comfortable. You're going to play better as well. And
Exactly.
apart from that, it just seems archaic to force you into that. But what a lovely story! I'm glad. I wish I'd have seen you. I'd have shouted something to you as you were driving to the bowling green. Don't you worry about
sure
that.
You would have.
Now you make the New Zealand side, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. Asia Pacific's 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How did that go?
Yeah, good. I went to Moana, and that was my first official full cap. Funny, the first game took about 18 hours to play against a Carmen Anderson from Norfolk Island, who we've had a lot of ding-dong battles throughout the years. But, we were halfway through the game. It poured down. We had to go back and finish it the next day. So that was my introduction to the senior team. That year, I think we won the fours. I think. Oh God, yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
No, we'll check that out. Don't you worry. But anyway, so now, when you say we won the fours, were you part of that fours or?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
That's unforgivable for getting your first big win like that. But anyway, we'll check it up. Trust but verify. Trust but
Thanks.
verify, as Ronald Reagan says. I trust you, but I'll verify it.
Happy with that.
So did you, once you were in, were you? I mean, a lot of people go in and out. They fall out of favour. Did you maintain that momentum and maintain your place in the side?
I did. The only time I fell out of favour was when my husband became the national coach. And the first team he ever was a part of selecting, I wasn't in.
Now I can understand from his point of view doing that. Do you believe that it was a justified exclusion, that other people were playing better, or do you think it was more, I don't want to be showing favouritism? And have you discussed it since?
Look, no, it was very much a resting back in the day when they were resting players, and Sharon Sims and I both got rested, so that they could kind of build a bigger pool of players to pick from. That was down back in 2006. So I played pretty much every tournament from 2001 till 2006. We moved to Christchurch when my husband got the coaching job, and we moved in like the winter, and the Asia Pacific Games were the January 2007. And I was struggling down there. I was a bit homesick, and I thought to myself, well, okay, it's probably one of the only times I've ever assumed I'd make a team. And I thought, well, bugger it, I'll be able to throw myself into training. That can be my out kind of thing. And then I remember he was going to a selection meeting that they were selecting the Asia Pacific Games team, and obviously, in the morning it's like I'm off to work, he's off to work. Right, good luck with your selection. Yeah. And he's like, right, good on you. And we tried to keep it as professional as we could. Obviously, pretty hard, coach and player, as husband and wife. So whenever you would be told about making a team or not making a team, Scruff is my husband nickname. He would ring, and it would come up as Scruff on my phone, and I'd be, hey hun, how you going? Hello, it's Dave Edwards here, Bowls New Zealand national coach. Just to inform you that, so this was the whole process we'd go through to try and keep it as professional as we could. So I'm at work this morning, and hello, Dave Edwards here, Bowls New Zealand national coach. Oh, hello, Dave. How are you going? Good. we have, as a selection panel, have selected the Asia Pacific Games team. I'm like, yeah, we talked about it this morning. You said you were off to select it, and he said, no, I'm just ringing you to let you know that you haven't made it.
Did you think he was joking when he first said it?
Well, I'm just like, oh, okay. And he's like, no, so you haven't made it. And I'm like, and I could tell in his voice, and I'm like, huh. I say, oh, okay, so what's the team? Look, I can't tell you because I haven't contacted all the players yet. And I'm like, what's the team? So he very much told me quickly, and I went, right, see ya, bang. So that was it. So I was a bit late getting home from work that day, obviously.
I can imagine. I was just thinking, was there another call and it came up, whatever what is your nickname, by the way, for your husband? What does he call you?
Nothing. I'm not telling you that.
Oh, no, this is good. I'm going to find that out. Don't you worry. Anyway, he looks at it on his phone and says, "Yeah, hi, Dave. This is your wife speaking. You're on the sofa this evening."
Yes, you're cooking dinner. Yeah. So it was, it was a bit awkward. But the only thing, and we've talked about it since, and I said to him, the only thing, look, I understand why you did it, and possibly it's a good idea. Asia Pacifics is a really good blooding event, I reckon, because you get to play the weaker nations, but you also get to play the stronger nations, and it's a real good gauge as to where you're at. So I understand why he did it. I said, I just thought that both Sharon and I earned the respect to be told beforehand. I thought that there might have been a phone call or look, this is what we're doing. Just so that you knew before,
why? Yeah.
because he never said that it was arresting at the time, and since it was, but then another funny story that comes out of that is part of the Blackjacks legacy, I suppose, that we've created is when someone earns their shirt for the first time, it gets presented by a senior player, and I've been lucky enough to present a number over the years, but after about, I don't know, 2 weeks after this, the team got announced, my husband, the Bowls New Zealand national coach, came to me and said, "Hi, Joe, one of the girls that had made it was making her debut." And I won't say who it was. It doesn't really matter. And he said, "I'm just wondering if you'd like to if you would present her shirt to her." And I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Right. So now I don't make the team, and now you wanted me to give a shirt to the person who's replacing me. And he's like, okay, so I take that as a no. and I kind of walked off, and about, I don't know, about 4 hours later, I went back and I said, of course I'll present it. It's not about me, it's about her. And yes, I will. And I went in and I presented her shirt. So yeah.
Did she play well? Did she play? We don't want any names, but did she play well?
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. That's the main.
Yeah.
I'm glad because you've given us a great insight there into the awkwardness of that relationship, which is frankly is unfair on both of you because you've both been selected because of your abilities. And you're both trying to fulfill your side of it, and because of your personal relationship, you're going to be copping stick and pressure from left, right, and centre. So thanks for sharing that with us. But I will find out the nickname. Pumpkin is my first guess, but or sweet pea. I'm going to go for a vegetable.
I was going to say, is it because I look like a pumpkin?
No. I wouldn't dare say anything like that, Joe. I've far too much respect, and I'm frightened of you. Right. So you basically, you get back in. You're in there before there, but you've got your world pairs, winning back-to-back golds in 04 and 08. Like winning your first one must have been amazing. What was it like winning the second one with your best mate?
Oh, fairy tale, dream come true. I mean, I met Val when I was 12. She was 17, and we, back then it was just lovely to meet another female that wasn't into the boys and the makeup and the dating and all that. It was just out and out sport. And so to go from, that to winning a world title with your best mate, you just couldn't have written a better story, really. It was in Christchurch, and I was living in Christchurch. Burnside was my club. My family was there. Val's family was there. It was none other than a fairy tale come true.
Just magnificent. You must have earned Commonwealth Games. Then you go and win two there. You win 14 and 18. You win silvers in in the world. You won silvers in 12 and 16. You must have earned the respect of the men there, and I'm just thinking, and I've seen the respect shown by men to women bowlers nowadays. There doesn't seem to be any sexism or looking down at you play mixed tournaments as well. But the one thing that I was interested in is how much more respect do you think you get for them because of your success, the women's success in the Commonwealth Games, where the men have really struggled in the last couple of decades?
Yeah, they have. It's a real. It's almost becoming a little bit of a oh geez, I don't even know what the word is, but it's like we do really really well on the world scene, but come Commonwealth Games, and there's just all it's going to take is someone to get through a semi-final, a quarter-final, and she'll be back on track. But the amount of times we've lost in, the guys have lost in quarterfinals. It's like a curse. I don't know what it is. They win their section, they're going through, they're flying, and a one-off game, it just can't seem to get past that. But it's I don't know. Look, sport. You know what it's all about, pressure and all that. But I think the women have gained the guys' respect through their achievements, and it's not. I don't think it's anything abnormal. I think to me, I admire people that are good at what they do. Doesn't matter whether it's being a painter, a carpenter, or a lawn bowler, or a darts player, whatever. But you gain respect by the things you do and the achievements you get. I think, and I really think the women have gained the men's trust and respect as the men have always had ours.
Now, you've earned it, I think, even more. I think I'm right in saying that in the APL, which I think is now the BPL, but in 2015, you were the only woman in the competition. Is that right?
Yeah, I was. That was a weird one.
But
yeah,
didn't you go on and win it?
Yeah, we did. It was
I'm glad you remember that one.
Thank you very much. It was I don't know. Each event that you play in has its own, I suppose, pressures and worries and all that. But that one to me felt like a real burden's not the word. I mean, the amount of messages, phone calls, emails I got leading up to it from women around New Zealand and the world, just saying you're doing it for the girls, and I felt quite a burden, that I was the female representative, and I couldn't have done it. Played with Shannon and Ali, and we really really gelled, got on really well, and went and won the game, and won the tournament. It was a few moment at the end of the tournament. It was a relief. Obviously, very very happy and all that, but it was. You just took a deep breath and went, wow, we did it for that particular tournament, being the only woman in it.
Yeah, I see, sort of a groundbreaker there. And one thing that I've noticed about spending time with you last year, Joe, is your humility. You're for someone who's achieved so much, you're a very humble person. And I'm just wondering, firstly, how did you feel in 2014 and the Queen's Birthday Honours List when you got the Member of the New Zealand Order of Merit?
A little bit embarrassed, very proud. Obviously we do what we do because we love doing it. We just play lawn bowls. It's go to Government House and I'm sitting there and they're reading out all the achievements and accomplishments of the other recipients, and I'm just like, Jesus, I just play bowls. It was very humbling. It felt a bit surreal that, what am I doing here? But then I suppose, over time and people's comments to me has made it a little bit better, as in, you've deserved this for this reason and this reason and this reason. You haven't cured cancer and you haven't, raised $1 million for something, but in your way, you've changed things. And so, I had to kind of go from the big picture just to my little picture. And no, very, very proud moment for my family. Lucky enough to have both my mum and dad and brother and husband at Government House when I received it. So, it was a huge honour.
I could. Now, one thing, I've spoken to a few recipients of awards like that. I spoke to Annette King, Yvonne Willering, and one of the things that they said was tough was keeping the secret. Now,
Yeah.
How hard was that to not go around
Yeah,
blabbing to everyone?
But in saying that, I've never really been a, look at me kind of, I've done this or I've done that. So yeah, it was hard because you desperately wanted to tell certain people. But yeah, I'm not a, chuck it on Facebook and let the world see things. So yeah, it was hard, but it was okay.
You managed it. You managed it. That's the main thing, and we can all talk about it now. The secret's out, just like your nickname will be out soon. One thing, getting back to Dave, because people love to know these things. There, obviously, you met him when you were really young. You just knew the guy, and he was married to someone else. Time moves on. How did you first become a couple? Who asked the other person out?
Oh, definitely, he asked me out.
Why? Because I'm not going to go and ask him. He can bleeding well ask me if he wants it. Or
no, it was weird. It was our paths crossed so much through the soccer and the cricket, and then the bowls, and he was married. I had a partner, and then it was almost like we both became available. I don't know how many months or whatever it was after things, and he just rang me up and asked me out, and it was one of the easiest dates I think you could have ever had,
because you knew each other so well.
Knew each other, yeah.
Can you remember where you went?
We went to oh God,
come on, you've got to confess now. Come on, share
Why?
it. Come on, because this is what we want to know.
We went out for dinner and went to the movies, but little stupid little things to me when you look back and you kind of think, yeah, I knew it was right. And it was the first date, and we went to this restaurant and I ordered a carbonara, chicken bacon pasta dish, carbonara. And it came to me, and on the side of the bowl was a half an eggshell with an egg yolk in it. And I'm looking at this thing thinking, what the...
True Italian style, yeah.
Yeah, thinking, I have no idea what this is for. And I think if it was on a date where you didn't really know the person, you'd just push it aside as if you knew what it was but didn't want it, and I just looked at him and I said, what's the egg yolk for? And he said, oh God, I was hoping you'd ask that because I have no idea. And I said, would you be embarrassed if I asked the waiter? And he went, God, no. If you don't know the question, you don't know the answer. And so I asked the waiter, and he told me, oh yeah, right, makes sense. And it just, I suppose, you just look back and you think, I was just really comfortable.
Yeah.
Comfortable enough to kind of make a bit of a dick of myself.
Meg, that's just brilliant. I like see people. You'll think, "Oh, that's such a boring little story," but people love it. And it's good to open up, Joe. It's good to open up occasionally.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to get to the crux of the thing now. You spend a fair bit of time in Australia. It's a great opportunity for both of you, and I know it's something that you wanted to do. But you'd already made your mind up to come back when COVID hit. How much of that disruption led to your decision to retire?
Oh, look, I suppose I'd be lying if I said it had no part. I think what it did was open up the blinkers a little bit to see that actually bowls is only a small part of what you do. That there's so much opportunity and just things outside of bowls that you can possibly partake in. And I always knew that. Well, I always knew that I was never going to do it half-assed. It was all or nothing for me. I'm never going to just, perhaps live on what I've done to get into a team, to just kind of get through and get by. And a lot of people say that playing for New Zealand is the big thing, and yes, it is. But for me, winning for New Zealand's huge. And I was never ever going to take it lighthearted and just do the bare minimum. And I always said to Scruff, how do people know when it's time? And this discussion, maybe was a year, 14 months before I'd made the decision. And I remember him saying, look, I don't know. He said, but other athletes just reckon that they know. And I'm like, but what if I don't? Like, what if I go too long? Or what if, and he said, just don't overthink this, And I remember it was actually up at the one of the first Bowls 3-5s, and I'm driving through Auckland traffic and getting to New Lynn, and I'm sitting at the traffic lights, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm done. I think I'm done. And I rang Scruff up when I got to New Lynn, and I said to him, honey, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. And he said, oh, okay. And I kind of said to him, is that okay? And he's like, what do you mean, is it okay? Like, I'll support you whether you go for another 20 years or you stop now. And he said, but when you get home, he said, I want to ask you 2 or 3 questions just so that in my mind, I know that you're making the right decision for you. And when I got home, he asked a few questions about things, and then we kind of both looked at each other and went, wow, okay, that's it. Righto, now what do I do? And it was just, I just knew. I knew that, Com Games in Birmingham, it's people don't understand that the difference, that the training that you have to do in preparation for greens over there. Before Glasgow, I was on a croquet lawn here in Nelson 6 days a week, an hour a day, and on a 8-second green, you can chuck up a lot of bowls in an hour. And I just thought, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, in the middle of winter, going down to a croquet lawn that's got frost on it. And that was it. And the thought, I think, back in the day, going away for a month, 5 weeks was like, yeah, this is really cool. I'm getting to see this and that. And now going away for a week's, I quite like home.
Yeah.
So it's, I think it's just been a change in my own mind. And I still, that was nearly 6 months ago. And I don't regret the decision. I'm loving playing in Nelson, playing for my club, playing for my centre, and hopefully we'll get to go to the UBC and maybe BPL over in Oz. But just enjoying playing in what I want with who I want, really.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, 646 caps. You've certainly done your country proud, and no one can begrudge you a bit of time off. What I'm going to do quickly now. Are you working now, or are you a kept woman?
I'm a kept woman at the moment.
There's nothing wrong with that. If I could find a man that would look after me, I'd do the same, Joe. Now, what we do at the end of this, we always do this little 6 and out, like 6 little questions. This fun little things are quite easy. The first one, though, is we ask, have you got a pet? Now, I remember talking to you and you saying that you and David had talked about it and thought maybe it's time to get a dog. Have you got a dog yet?
Well, look, no is the answer to that question. Obviously, we are going through some talks as to whether or not a puppy may be on the horizon, but that is a no at the moment, but not a definite no.
Right. Well, I look forward to finding out the dog's name as well as your nickname when
probably,
you finally get one.
Probably Keegan or Dalgleish or something.
Well, that's what I think is the next question. I almost don't want to ask this. What sports team do you love the most?
Other than Other than the Nelson Women's Bowling Club sevens and the Nelson Inter sevens, Liverpool.
Yeah, I thought that, and yeah, I don't blame you for that. And what a fantastic year you had last year, but this year you are below West Ham if you care to look at the table.
Thank you. Move on. Number 3.
Right, sports person that you most admire.
Phil Taylor.
Oh, the power.
Yeah.
I think Val liked him as well. Is it just his durability and?
Look, like I said before, I just admire people that are good at what they do. So many people go out and go for the underdog, and it's an upset and all this. Sometimes I think that the person that's supposed to win is in almost the harder position. I just loved the way that he was represented his sport and his country for so many years and got so many results, and just love watching him play.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, the working man's hero.
Yeah.
Right. Your favourite musical artist, if you could go to a gig, if dead or alive.
Probably. Jesus. For sheer, I suppose, worldwide, how good they were. The Beatles.
Yep.
Love to go to a gig of them. Oh, geez. Someone like, the Canadian group Bare Naked Ladies, I think would be pretty cool.
I'll have to look them up.
Yeah. Tell you, they're pretty good.
Okay, well, I shall have a listen and give you my opinion on them. Right, favourite movie? Have you got a movie that you think, I'd love that movie?
Oh, it's a little bit embarrassing.
No. Look, hey, I love Casablanca. So how embarrassing is that? So,
jeez, I don't think I've ever seen Casablanca.
Well, you should do.
It was black and white, isn't it?
Yeah, it is black and white, and it's very romantic. And so what's your embarrassing one?
Well, for romance, it's probably Pretty Woman.
That is embarrassing.
I love Shawshank Redemption. Love The Green Mile. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Thanks.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
And finally, we at the end of it, we always put people on death row to really put the squeeze on them so they come up with it. With your final meal, you can have an entree, a main or dessert, or you can just have one, whatever you want. What would you love? What do you love eating? Don't say carbonara with raw egg on the
with an
side.
egg yolk on the
Yeah.
side. I really like dumplings.
Oh yeah. We're talking about the Chinese ones with stuff in it, or the sort of suet ones that you put in a stew.
No, the Chinese ones.
Yep.
I'm a big chicken. I just love chicken. It's probably my favoritist protein. Not really hugely dessert kind of a girl. Not really.
No,
There's
you don't
nothing,
have to. We're not
nothing
forcing
that
it on
stands out, to be fair.
Now that you're not bombing up and down the greens as much now, you need to mind your intake, so you can keep that trim, athletic figure of yours, Joe.
And not let myself go.
Exactly, like I have. Right. Joe Edwards, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for everything that you've done for the game of lawn bowls in New Zealand. And I'm sure we'll see you around the traps, and I'm sure you'll still be out there on the greens, except not representing New Zealand.
Yep, sure can.
They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
Fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or
From bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 3. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, double the 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above you do, doesn't it?
Unbiased, Miles Davis.